Lighting should not be an afterthought. Lighting needs to be considered in the early processes of your design. Running cables and things in a kitchen that's already installed is very difficult and can be very expensive. So it's something that you definitely want to consider. Whether you decide to go for it or not, you need to make that call before your kitchen goes into fabrication. All cabinet lighting is basically installed or prepared for in the factory. So most of the cabinets will have a chase cut out for the wires. All cabinet lighting needs a transformer or a driver. There needs to be an accessible place for that. Lighting is not an afterthought. It is very expensive to add lighting into a kitchen that hasn't been thought out first. Lighting in the kitchen is important. It needs to be cohesive with the rest of the space. So if you've got an adjoining dining room or an adjoining living space, the lighting needs to carry through so that it feels cohesive. Not all lights are created equal. There is task lighting and there's ambient lighting. And even within those two areas, there's different colour tones in your lighting as well. So you've got the more natural lighting and then your warm white lighting. What you want to make sure you do is that you keep your lighting consistent. The last thing you want is some warm lights over here and some bright lights over here, which really contradict each other when they're on. I mean, they're there for a purpose. They're there to light your space, to keep you safe while you're chopping your vegetables and preparing your meals. They're also there to create ambience and atmosphere in your kitchen when you're not performing those tasks. So lighting in the kitchen is a really big deal today. It's really important that you don't overlook the lighting. So there are some places that you can choose to have lighting or not, and there are some places that you should definitely include lighting. Underneath the cabinetry that sits above your workspaces, it's really important to have some good task lighting in that space. And so task lighting is more lighting the space you're working on. So it gives you the right task light to see what you're doing. So task lighting has a few functions. It gives you light to see what you're doing, so it becomes a safety thing. If you're chopping your carrots, you don't see what you're doing, there's more of a risk of hurting yourself. So when you've got great task lighting, your chances of hurting yourself whilst you're preparing dinner generally drop. The other side of the coin is the ambient lighting, which is generally used for your toe spaces or above cabinet or in cabinet lighting, which creates an ambient feel. You might turn your main lights off and just have those ambient lights on for atmosphere. To have that on a dimmer is really cool. So you can adjust the mood with a touch of a switch. In-cabinet lighting is probably more important when you think about the colour of your internal cabinetry. So an internal cabinet we would say is a carcass, and a carcass is generally white. In dark cabinetry, so if your client has chosen to use dark carcasses, it can be a bit of a dark hole in there. So what you want to make sure is that when you open the door, that there's some sort of sensor light that comes on and illuminates the space. So it gives you good access and a visual on what's in your pantry, or you're looking to find the things you need and it's easier. The different colour tones in lighting can make a real difference to the look of the kitchen. The natural light, which is your cool whites, your more bright white light. So they create good task lighting, but it may not be the feel you want for your kitchen. The other light source would be your warm white lights, which are a more yellow, softer tone. People can be quite distinctive. They will either like one or the other. There's no right and wrong when it comes to choosing those things. So long as you've got good task lighting, whether it's the natural white light or the softer warm light, it really comes down to personal preference. The lighting that we put through our kitchens today is all LED. So they're low cost to run, they're really efficient, and you don't necessarily have to change them. The other cool thing about the LED lighting is that a lot of the times you can add a sensor. So when you open your cupboard doors, the lights come on, and then you shut them and the light turns off. So it makes them really efficient. So the different types of LEDs are your strip lights and your spotlights. So a strip light will give you a more even spread of light across your surface, whereas a spotlight will give you a more cone-shaped effect and light a specific space. So if you are having a light in a cabinet that's a decorative space, a spotlight is probably better for that. Whereas if you're having under-cabinet lighting, the strip light is better. It gives you a more consistent light across your space. Lighting in the kitchen is really important, but whether you're using pendants over an island or not is very personal. What you sort of need to consider is the pitch of your ceiling and how it affects the flow through and the visual of me connecting to you. What we don't want is a pendant between us that blocks our view. So most designers will offer a lighting service or a lighting plan with their concepts, but it is important that if it's a big deal to you that you get the right advice. Colour consultant is not necessarily a great lighting person. You want to make sure that you get the right advice and you get the right options that suit the style and suit your needs.